Hello everyone and welcome to another episode of the Product Coalition podcast. I'm on my European today where I'm really excited to be joined by Shobhit Chugh. Shobhit, welcome to the show.
Thank you. I'm really glad to be here.
I've been looking forward to sitting down and recording with you for a while. So I'm really looking forward to chatting through the habits that make for strong product managers. I think it's going to mean a lot to the audience.
Awesome. I'm really excited about it.
Brilliant. Now, for those listening, was visiting 5 cities across Europe to interview over 50 product leaders. Unfortunately, due to the COVID-19 situation, that isn't possible. So all of these sessions are recorded remotely. Now, with remote podcast recordings, it does mean the sound can be a bit tinny or we could get a few dropouts. Apologies for that. Simply doing the best I can given the situation. Now, if you like this episode or any of the episodes of the Product Coalition podcast, please note that they're all dedicated to raising awareness and support for the bushfire affected communities and wildlife in Australia. Now, those communities are also additionally affected by lack of tourism dollar that will come to them this year due to the COVID-19 situation. So if you'd like to support the communities, the volunteer firefighters or the wildlife of Australia, you can do so over at bushfire.productcoalition.com. Now, if you've just discovered the Product Coalition, welcome. We're a global product community of over 500,000 readers, 6,000 Slack members, and thousands of podcast listeners. You can head to platform.productcoalition.com to find out more. Now, there's a few brands and individuals that have made significant donations to the bushfire fundraiser that I mentioned. First up is UserPilot. UserPilot is a code-free user onboarding and adoption tool designed especially for product management teams. UserPilot helps to increase conversion, user retention rates, and reduce churn by guiding new users to their first aha moment with interactive walkthroughs, contextual product tours, and onboarding checklists. It allows product managers to build fully customizable, behavior-triggered in-app experiences with a simple visual editor. Head to userpilot.com to grab a demo and a free trial. Product-led teams like Mixpanel and Flexport know that the best time to capture engagement is when a user is already inside the product. That's why they use Chameleon to drive feature adoption, build onboarding flows, and gather user feedback. You can give it a go at trychameleon.com/success. And some of the individuals I'd like to shout out to is Rich Mironov, Chris Miles, James Woodley, and the gentleman on the podcast here with me, Shobhit Chugh, for their donations as well. It certainly means a lot. Shobhit, let's get stuck in. I'm really looking forward to talking about habits and how habits can create strong product managers. But before we do, would you mind sharing a bit of intro about yourself and your career path into product?
Totally. So I currently work at Google as a product manager for a product called Firebase, which helps developers build better apps. And I came into product after being in management consulting for a little bit and worked through various startups, came over to Google. The other thing that I do is I have started a company and a class called Intentional Product Manager, which is all about teaching what are the habits that make for strong product managers and help product managers accelerate their way through their career.
Awesome. Thank you. So I assume that's touching on a lot of your learnings throughout your career is what you're bringing to students there. Could you tell me a bit about how did you get started thinking about habits?
Absolutely. So it started with sort of a phase in my career where I wasn't doing that well. And really it was the first time in my career where I was not performing, at the highest level at some in some sense, I was underperforming. And I was just wondering what is going on, because I've been reading all these blogs, all these Medium articles, everything that I can find about product management. And I'm trying to apply all of that, yet it doesn't seem to be working. And like my review shows that my impact has been low. My psychology is not really where it needs to be at. My mindset is not great. I just feel down. And then over the next year, I realized that I had let the job run me rather than me running the job. Basically, I was taking the job as designed. I was taking all the demands as designed and just had let it overwhelm me. And that's when I decided, nope, not again. This is not happening again. So over the next year, I just try to experiment a lot and figure out what is it that would make for me to get back where I need to be, to like really excel here and to not let it overtake me. So that's where these habits came to mind. And then later, as I moved past that company, oh, by the way, at the end of the first year, I had the top rating.
Right.
So I was like, cool, this works. But then the next question was, hey, can I teach it? So as I moved on to the next job, which happened to be at Google, I floated a class with 8 students. I literally posted on Slack, hey, I'm starting a new class. It's free. Please apply, and I'll pick 8 people and we'll go through the class. Well, 40 people applied. I selected 8. They all went through the class. And by the end of the 10 sessions, the 10-week program, everybody was still there and like really excited. Everybody left me testimonials. And the thing that I was worried about is that because I'm not charging, that people will start dropping off, because we
Right.
don't tend to value things that are free very often. Like, oh yeah, that's just free. That's why sometimes events just charge like $10 so that people show up to this. So once this happened, I was like, okay, perfect. This thing works. It's something valuable to product managers, and that started my whole journey into habits and intentional product manager.
Great. There's something that you just mentioned at the start there around how the job was running you. Could we talk a bit more about that, Shobhit? Could you give us some examples? When you said that, it actually came to mind for me. I've had some of those experiences as well in my career. And I'm keen to hear for those who want to reflect inwards and assess, is the job running them?
Mm-hmm.
What are some of the examples where that you've either seen in students or you yourself have experienced there?
Yeah. So I would say 3 main things. Number 1 is just, how do you feel at the end of the day? Do you feel like as if you got hit by a bus? Do you feel like completely drained? Do you think about, hey, is this really what I signed up for? Is this product management? Or do you feel energized, motivated? Do you feel like you could still go on and do something more productive? Like that is signal number 1. Signal number 2 is how you show up to other people. So if you asked people and said, describe me, give a few words that describe me. If they say rushed, if they say busy, if they say unfocused, clearly that your job's running you and you're just trying to like keep up rather than you running the job. And then for me, the third one is really, when you think about day to day, you go about, do you have a sense of clarity? Where is it that you're going to contribute the most? Right? Can you point out to things and say, yep, I made that happen, and without me, it won't happen? Or did you just do all the busy work instead of your life's work? So I think those are 3 really good indications you can look at and say, yeah, either my job's running me or I'm running the job.
Nice. There's certainly some points I'm reflecting on historically throughout my career, where some of those signals that you've mentioned there are good indicators to watch out for. Okay, thank you. So we spoke a little bit there about the problem, and what I love is your approach, how you've gone about identifying not only how to solve this yourself, but how then to teach it as well. When it came to, before we talk about the habits that you teach, what is it that your process that you went through that changed for you personally over that year, where you tried to build and learn what are the right habits?
Yeah, so I would say a lot of test and learn for
Right.
sure.
Okay.
Even now, even in like my current iteration of the course, is different from what it used to be 6 months ago or 3 months ago. But it all started to fit together with one how do you call it, like foundational habit, which I call powerful presence. And the goal there is that before you approach any sort of situation, whether it's working on your own, you really want to focus and work on your product strategy, or maybe you want to have a meeting where you're presenting to 15 people, or just a one-on-one chat. How is it that you want to show up? Like, are you intentional about that? And there's various ways I do that. but like one of them is the concept of writing down the 3 words that describe you. In fact, before I got on this podcast, people who are listening to it won't see it, but I had these 3 words on a sticky and I put it on my monitor. So it's just like one of the things I do to make sure I show up with intention.
Nice.
I think that's the cornerstone, and it's really what it helps with most is energy. We think we are working very hard and so we're losing energy all day. No, that's not true. There's been enough research that you lose energy in transitions, not in the actual work. So if you are like, product managers, going to a 30-minute meeting, doing something else, you would know that, Jay, very well. But I think that's what we need to watch out for. So that's going back to your question, like that became the cornerstone habit. And then I started really watching out for what worked for me for the other habits. And then also kept getting feedback on and just listening to what people were saying. So for example, when we would talk about communication, that's like the second habit. I started hearing a lot about meetings and how I'll communicate in a meeting. So then I brought together something for meetings, and then it just like sort of kept going in that realm.
Right.
And then there was a habit around influence, which I just took out and built its own course because it's just too big to cover within the main thing. But that's how I came across the habits.
One of the things I've noticed over the years is wherever I'm at within my career, I'd be unhuman if I didn't bring it home in one way or another, either through the energy you return back home through the door with, or how you talk about work when you're at home, or if you talk about work when you're at home. Can I ask, in your situation, did people around you notice a difference with you when you made these changes?
I think they absolutely did.
Right.
For some time, my wife did ask me, hey, what have you been doing? Like, like, why are you always bouncing off the walls? Why are you so excited? And like, I'm typically a very calm person. So even when I'm excited, it's not like I'm just like going gung ho, but you can tell. I had more energy to hang out with my kids. So, she could tell the difference. It made an absolute change in my life. And then my students tell me similar stories.
And on a similar theme, how did this impact your ability to switch off from work? Because obviously when we do let the job run us, you can have those late nights, or you just can't sleep, or you're worried about how to position something tomorrow, or how to have this conversation that's coming up on Thursday. Did you find there was an impact to you and your well-being?
Yeah, it was, but there's a subtlety here. So rather than trying to switch off work, I'm just trying to switch on to the next thing.
Right. Okay.
Right? And like literally, okay, I'm going to switch on to hanging out with my kids. And then I have a routine around switching on to sleep. Now, not always the best. I have certainly woken up at 3 a.m., where I've been working on this presentation for a while and it's not been clicking. And at 3 a.m., I wake up and I'm like, I have it. And there's no way I can go back to sleep then. I just gotta get up and finish it up. And some of my counterparts who work with me in engineering, they've gotten emails from me at 4:30 in the morning. I'm like, yeah, no emergency, just that I got up, I thought I figured it out, and here's a draft of the presentation. So not 100% successful, but it's helped quite a bit.
I love it. So intentional product management and also intentional non-product management keeps a healthy balance.
I mean, it's all interconnected, right? Like, so when I do one-on-one coaching, it's the whole point is that you can't work on work without thinking about your life or your energy levels or how your relationships are or what your mission is. Like all of it just comes back to help each other or harm each other.
Great. Let's talk about some of the habits, Shobhit, that specifically you've discovered that mean the most and have the most impact. Could you talk me through some of those?
Totally. So the first one I mentioned was powerful presence, which is the act of transitioning into the next thing so that you show up as your best self. That's the foundational habit. Then I go into consistent communications. We all know communication is core to product managers. The main thing that I focus on is, I would say, two main things. One is clarity. Three main things. Clarity. Second is about customization. Like, can you really quickly figure out what the other person needs and give them the map that they need, not just the entire territory. Like, no, don't try to explain everything. And the third one is communicating in tricky situations. Let's say you don't want to do something.
Right.
So how do you fight that off, or you want to give someone bad news or just apologize, you screwed up. So those are things I focus on in communication. Third one is meaningful meetings, which is often a favorite because it's a very unfavorite topic for product managers. They feel like they're going from one meeting to another. And really what I focus on is not so much necessarily about make it the most efficient, but it's all about how do you shape your team's culture through meetings. So that's habit number 3. 4 is powerful productivity, where it's all about how do you get the most important things done and not just a giant to-do list, which most of us carry along. And you don't carry around the guilt of not having done a million things, because that's the life we live as product managers. And then last, like the icing on the cake is real relationships. So once you start to do all of these well and you are intentional about relationships, I think that's what supercharges your life as a product manager.
Okay, thank you. Now, you've been teaching these habits for a while, Shobhit, across, I'm assuming, different types of people in different types of organizations in different states of America, if not internationally. What is it that you've found through your exposure to so many product people that are trying to improve how they go about their day?
Yeah, I would say, Jay, there's been a lot of surprises.
Right.
I would say probably the 3 biggest ones. One, I thought that this would only apply to early career PMs. I was like, oh, like folks that are directors, folks that have been doing product management or even any kind of job, they have this figured out. Nope. It's like one of my students said that, you actually build up bad habits over time. So this is shipping those off and restarting. So that's been pretty surprising. Second, I always focus these on what would make you intentional and feel much more fulfilled, but didn't really think a lot about what impact it had on your career. What I'm finding is folks start doing a lot better in their career, and this includes just their current positions, starting to accelerate things there, getting more responsibility. But the other part is even finding new jobs. If you're good at communication and relationship building, of course you're going to do better at the next job. So that's been pretty surprising. And then the third one for me was, just like I started to see various subtleties when you are in a small company where you might have, basically the one founder is driving the product roadmap and you're trying to gain control, like that thing. There's certain subtleties. Versus you're in a large organization, you need to get buy-in across 7 different people to proceed forward. So especially the meetings and the communication habits and productivity, these 3 change quite a bit depending on the context. So I've been trying to be more intentional myself and pointing out those different contexts and how they affect what you do.
Brilliant. Thank you. Can I ask, Shobhit, with the current situation in the world, every product manager near enough is probably working from home listening to this. How have you seen the habits need to change, if at all, or what patterns have you changed yourself or habits have you changed with such an emphasis now on working from home and everyone being from home? No one's ever going to be in a physical meeting room at the moment.
Yeah. It adds a lot of challenges to it. And I would say couple of things. One, it pretty much makes this more important because some of the lines that you draw that, that used to just exist, that, hey, I'm on my commute from work, those have gone. And then, the line between kids walking in at some point while you're in the meeting, like those lines are blurring. So if anything, these habits have become more important. And I've experienced that just on my day-to-day working. I started to realize that I had started to drift off myself as we transitioned into this, and I had to recommit myself and be like, okay, this is what I'm going to focus on. Back to the basics. The other part that's been interesting is I work a lot with the folks, with my students on not just how you learn this, but then how do you make it a habit, right? So what are the triggers you're going to use to kick off a habit? Like, when do you know you're going to, for example, get ready for that next situation? Do that quick, powerful presence so you show up as your best self. I realized the way I used to do it is I used to look at my phone to figure out, hey, where do I need to be next? Like, where's my next meeting room? Now my next meeting room is right here, right? It's always right here. So I realized that I had actually stopped doing my habit because my trigger or my cue, it just changed. And so I had to readapt and rethink about, okay, what will be my new cue, and how do I recommit to it? So those are the changes that have happened.
Shobhit, when you're working with your students, over what period of time do they normally implement these changes? And obviously, for any habit, it's got to be habitual. Typically means you've got to practice it a lot. Over what period of time do they start to feel the results and feel the change and get the value?
Yeah. So two answers to this. One is immediately. Immediately they start noticing an impact. But the point is that everybody doesn't gravitate to the same things. So, like, for example, when we speak through the meetings, what I call meaningful meetings habit, what I tell them is, look, I'm going to give you a lot of tricks. Think of this as it's a refrigerator full of supremely delicious, healthy, organic food. Now, you're going to not eat the whole fridge at once, right? But I would recommend start with these one or two things. And what I found is different people tend to gravitate towards different things. So, like, one of my students, for example, he gravitated towards, in communication, he gravitated towards the listening skills, which is part of the communication skills I talk about. Then he also gravitated towards productivity because that was his biggest pain point. While another student, all she did was master powerful presence, and everything was worth it for her because that just is the foundation that changes everything. So it is very variable depending on students.
And is there a particular mindset that students need coming into this? I assume a desire to see an opportunity to improve. But is there more beyond that you find?
So every class we begin by saying these four things again. So I'm just going to say those here. So one is from today, we will run the job. The job will not run us. Second, the realization that we are all playing roles in life. We're not fixed. We don't have a fixed mindset, but a growth mindset, and we can adapt to the situation. Third is, you know what? I'm blanking on the third. I remember the fourth. Maybe I'll come back to the third. But the fourth one is, I borrowed it from Brendan Burchard, which is common sense is not common practice. So you can dismiss all these habits by just saying, yeah, of course, that makes sense. That's common sense. And then I keep challenging you. Okay, well, tell me exactly yesterday, how many times did you do this? 0. Okay, perfect. So, we focus a lot on that. And I remember the third one. So the third one was that us as product managers, I joke, but I'm kind of also serious, that we don't produce anything of value. And by that, what I mean is, look, we might write specs, we might do certain things, but nothing that often goes directly to customers. What we produce is influence. We produce the team working towards something awesome. And that comes from influence, which doesn't come from influencing tactics. They can help, but it really comes from our reputation, which is coming from our consistent actions. So it all comes down to consistent actions and habits, which is number 3.
I love that. And obviously that's a foundation of good leadership. And for even, associate or junior product managers or people breaking into product management for the first time to learn some of those traits out the gate, I can imagine is very powerful from a career perspective.
Yeah. And it's fun.
Fantastic. I wish I had something like this, to guide me 10, 15 years ago, instead of learning things the hard way.
Same here. I learned things the hard way as well. And I'm trying to make it simpler.
No, thank you so much. Now, for your students, I understand, Shobhit, they work just with you for the full sort of term of working through this course. Is that correct?
Yeah. So the way we do it, I've recently changed the format to try to make it efficient. So there's video lessons, just so that you can watch it at any point and you can rewatch it at any point. Then I also put students in cohorts so that they can keep each other accountable. And, we're all social learners, so they learn from each other's experiences. And then there's Q&A calls with me where I try to challenge them and provide some distinctions that would take them to the next level. So like, if you are, for example, working on the listening habit, what are the kinds of questions you might ask to go deeper into what the other person's saying? Things like that.
Nice. I love it. Thank you so much for talking me through this, Shobhit. It's really interesting, and thank you for doing what you do for the product community as well. I think this is just one person out there making a difference to the quality of product management globally. So thank you for what you're doing.
Oh, no, thank you. I'm learning every time I talk to any student, and I'm getting better myself. So it's just something that keeps giving back to me as well.
Brilliant. I've really enjoyed talking through this. You've made me reflect personally on my own career and my own habits that I either have or haven't illustrated historically. So thank you very much. I really enjoyed this session.
Thank you very much, Jay, for hosting me. It was great being here and great talking with you.
My pleasure. And thank you once again for your significant donation to support the Bushfire Fund. I really appreciate it. It means a lot. Thank you.
Sure.
For those listening, I hope you've enjoyed this episode with myself and Shobhit. If you have, please remember that this episode and all the episodes are dedicated to raising awareness and funds for the Australian communities and wildlife over at bushfire.productcoalition.com. Until the next episode, thank you and goodbye.